Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden. We're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital, and we're going to revisit one of my favourite Swedish breweries actually. These guys have always been very prolific, not afraid to try different styles, but for this video we have something a little bit different from them and I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. So for this review then we are going to return to Beerbliotek. We're back to the bottle for this one, which is the first time in quite a while, and we're going to have a look at my first sour beer from them. They've started releasing sour beers now. So this particular beer is called Brother Barrel. It's number 251 according to the Beerbliotek numbering system, and this one they're describing as a natural wine barrel aged mixed culture sour ale. It comes in at 5.6% ABV, and this one was released through Systembolaget on the 3rd of March 2020 along with two other sour beers. The other two were, one of them was called Brandon and the other one was called Shirazzle Dazzle, and you know, to be honest, out of the three I wasn't sure which one to get. I literally picked this one because I liked the name of it. There wasn't very much detail available on these beers actually through Beerbliotek's Facebook page or indeed through Systembolaget either, so literally I knew there was the three sour beers coming out and I picked this one because I liked the name of it, and according to Untappd this one apparently is the best of the three, so I'm quite curious to see how it turns out. But I've had a good number of beers from Beerbliotek before, barley wines, double IPAs, West Coast IPAs, New England IPAs, Imperial Stouts. You know, this brewery are very good when it comes to pretty much all the styles that they try. You know, if you're interested in Swedish beer, Beerbliotek are one of the breweries that you definitely want to check out. Very good brewery in my experience, and definitely not scared to try different styles, so check them out if you get the chance. But I'm really curious to see how my first sour beer from them turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this particular beer as well. So yeah, let's see how we go with this one then. My first sour beer from Beerbliotek up in Gothenburg. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek before. No doubt there will be some more at some point in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Beerbliotek then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you before with Beerbliotek, this brewery is based in Gothenburg and it was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. This is Adam Norman, who's from Australia, Richard Bull, who's a Kiwi from New Zealand, Anders Hedlund, who is a Swede, and then Daryl Denecker, who is from South Africa. So Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and then Daryl and Anders were regular customers there, and they just used to sit and talk about all the different styles of beer and things. And eventually they decided one day that they were going to buy a brewing kit together and start to brew their own beer, and this was what evolved into Beerbliotek. So the original brewery that they had is in the old Klippan Sugar building, which is a really nice old building very close to the old Carnegie brewery in Gothenburg. Quite a famous beer brand that actually over here, but the brew kit they had there was from Brewfab in Scotland, and in the first year they apparently produced 38 different varieties of beer, and all their beers are brewed still in small batches, so they tend to stick to the home brewing roots, and for the first couple of years they very rarely brewed the same beer, but these days they do tend to repeat the ones that go down very well, and they tend to repeat them as well to release them in different markets. So from going to just brewing single batch beers, they've kind of changed a little bit, but they still keep this sort of mantra, if you like, of a high output brewery. So you'll always find new things from Beerbliotek. They're a very prolific brewery, I guess you could say. But in 2015 they opened a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they now have their main tap room and run their main brewing operations. The old brewery is now used for producing sour beers. This one was produced at the Klippan Sugar Brewery. and they're also working on a barrel aging project in the new brewery as well, which has started releasing beers. You've seen me review 1 or 2 beers from this from that brewery, so hopefully I can get a hold of a few more of those at some point soon. But the idea behind the name Beerbliotek is that they wanted to brew a wide variety of beers to basically teach the customers something new about beer every time they tried one of their beers, be it, you know, a different yeast strain, a different type of hop, a different type of malt. You know, they basically just wanted to teach the customers something new about beer every time they tried one of the Beerbliotek beers, and they've been very successful in that, I think, actually. You know, Beerbliotek are one of the very, very well respected Gothenburg craft beer names these days. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Beerbliotek for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different beers that they've done. They do have a fairly extensive selection of these beers available to look at on the website. I'm not sure how many actually, or how up to date it is, but when I've been on the Beerbliotek website, I've always been impressed with how much information they have on the different beers actually. So do check out that website, like I said. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Beerbliotek for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And as I said, you can check out the brewery website, or you can look at the Untappd, the Beer Advocate and the Rate Beer pages to learn more about all these different beers that they've done. But as I say, a very prolific Swedish brewery, these guys. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. It's quite strange actually to have a bottle from Beerbliotek, because like I said, we are more used to the cans from these guys now. I think the last bottle that I had from these guys was actually called A Passion for Gingers, and I think it was the very first release of that beer, but now of course that's quite widely available in the cans. But as you can see, this is the kind of typical old school Beerbliotek artwork that's on this. This is quite nice. Plain white bottle cap on this one. One of the things I've always said I love about Beerbliotek is that they do put on the whole thing here. If you look at that, Swedish craft beer. I think that's pretty awesome. But it says on the front here, a natural wine barrel aged mixed culture sour ale. The last 3 sour beers brewed at our Sukabruket sour brewery have all been inspired by wine and our friends at Wine Mechanics. Say hello at beerbliotek.com. So yeah, I've seen on Untappd that this beer, it's actually called I'm Barrow, this is my brother Barrow and my other Barrow. So I would have thought that this beer is actually called Brother Barrow, but it seems to have kind of 2 names. I'm not quite sure about that. This video will be called Brother Barrow though, but I might put this other name in a tag or something so that it does come up when people search it, because for some reason on Untappd it's this thing on the side here that is actually the name of the beer, but it was sold through Systembolaget just as Brother Barrow actually. So yeah, I'm not sure of the exact name of this beer, but what I can tell you is that it's a 5.6% natural wine barrel aged sour beer, this one. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. As I said to you earlier, this one was released on the 3rd of March 2020 through the local and Småskaligt assortment in Systembolaget, and it was released along with the Random Brandon and the Shirazo Dazzle, but apparently this one is the best of the 3 actually, and I just picked this one because I liked the name of it. So yeah, it was a bit of a lottery with this. I wanted to try one of these sour beers and I just went with this one because I thought the name was quite interesting. So yeah, as you can see with this one then, this one's poured a lovely kind of pale, not so much pale, more of a kind of rich goldeny colour, this one. If I hold this up to the light, it's a very bright golden colour, this one. It's almost the same colour as the likes of a German Helles or something like that, a lovely kind of bright golden colour. You can see the head on this, it was about a 1/4 finger of a frothy white kind of creamy coloured head. That's faded away just to be a very, very kind of thin foamy layer, pretty much nothing there at the moment, to be honest with you. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just going up towards the where that head would have been in this one. But overall, you know, it kind of looks kind of what you would expect from a sour beer. I wasn't sure if this one would have fruit and things added to it, but I'm guessing it's a white wine barrel that it's been aged in, because you can definitely smell some of these lovely vinous notes out of the beer as you kind of sugar it around. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma on this one and see how we go on. Nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider it as a sour ale in terms of its appearance. So yeah. Oh yeah, straight away with this one, you get that lovely kind of smooth oakiness underneath. It's got a wee bit of that diacetyl thing to it, you know, the butterscotch, the Werther's Original, it's got a little bit of that. But of course, you do get that kind of white, green, grapey sort of thing out of this. It's definitely a sort of white wine barrel-aged beer, this. Definitely not red wine, in my mind. So lovely white, green, grapey notes. The tartness that you get out of this, it's quite... the tartness that you get out of this one, it's got a little bit of a lemony citric note to it, but there's quite a bit of a grassy note coming out of this beer for me, and there's not really a floral element to it. It's a very smooth, grassy, green grapey type aroma coming out of this. A little bit of gooseberry, a little bit of a, I don't know if you could say like pear or something like that. There is a bit of a kind of peary, gooseberry type note coming out of this beer towards the front of the nose. But like I say, sort of oaky, woody base to this one. You can smell the sort of butterscotchy Werther's Original type thing with this beer as well. Yeah. Yeah, definitely a little bit of that Werther's Original butterscotchy type thing in there. Some nice grassy elements to it. A little bit of that kind of vinous citric sort of thing. Some white grapey notes. A little bit of gooseberry. And a little bit of a kind of peary ester for me as well. I mean, I've always found that with sour beers, you don't get too much in the way of complexity from the aroma out of these, and when it comes to the flavour, they aren't the most complex beers in my mind, but it's all about how they kind of transition. That's what sour beers are all about for me. It's all about how you get that transition and the smoothness and the sweetness and things. It's all about how the flavours kind of fit together actually. So I'm really curious to see what this one has in store. There's nothing overly surprising about the aroma of this beer, but it's definitely a sort of more light and kind of white sour, if you can say that actually. If you like sort of normal Nelson Sauvin regular beers, if you like the Nelson Sauvin hop, the Enigma, I've got a feeling this is one that is going to be really nice for you. So let's have a taste of this then and see how we get on. This one is the Brother Barrel number 251, part of the new sour beer range from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. I'll tell you something, when you take this in, it really does have a little bit of a kind of puckering quality to it. It's one of the things I always enjoy about the sour beers, is just that first taste that you get when it's really, really puckering. Yeah, I mean, it's really thanks to one of my subscribers, Chris Contreras. He sent me up some lambic beers to try, and he really sort of helped develop my taste for the sour beers actually. So I've really begun to kind of appreciate them in a different way over time. And of course there was the Mikael Valhalm Wild Ale celebration recently that I filmed my video for. I got to try some awesome sour beers there, which was great. So I feel that I've developed a really nice and really good appreciation for sour beers. And you know, as the first lot, just on that first kind of taste, if this is the first lot of sour beers that Beerbliotek are putting out there, pardon me, you know, I think they're going to do okay with these. This is pretty nice actually. First impression I would say is that it's quite a smooth but also quite oily sour. That's the first impression I get out of this. Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, you've got a lovely... Let's just try and break down the flavour straight away with this. I mean, right away you get that lovely kind of smooth, woody oakiness just blanketing the middle of your palate there. The way it comes out in the aftertaste with this one is really very nice. You can feel the smooth oakiness towards the back of the palate, but as you come kind of further forward on the tongue, you start to get a few of those vanilla elements creeping out there. Because this is obviously a white wine, sort of green-white grape based sour, this one's really got a nice kind of light juiciness to it as well. I don't find that when you take this one in at first, it is really quite puckering, but this one sort of juices up and oils itself up really nicely. Yeah, I really like how that how this one just kind of fits together. It really is very, very nice actually. As I said, the thing for me with sour beers, it's all about the transitions that they make, and I love the way that this one sort of moves towards the smoothness later on, but it still retains a bit of that sourness at the front of the palate. You get that lovely white green grapey thing just mixing in with the more kind of citricy, kind of zesty floral quality out of the beer, sour quality out of the beer rather. This is really nice, this one. I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. I would have been curious to try the other ones, but as I say, they were releasing 3, and I was kind of like, well, I'll pick one of the 3, and this one had the most interesting name for me. It was either this or Random Brandon I was thinking of, but I like what they've done with this, and I mean, if this is their kind of first go at a sour beer, they're going to get better at these as they experiment, but this is a solid first effort in my mind. I like this, so thumbs up to Beerbliotek for this. So yeah, as we say, we've talked about the kind of malty side of this beer. On the sides of the palate then, at the back corners of the palate, you do get a little kind of touch of, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness of this one. I don't know if there's hops in this, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel like there is, but to me there is a teeny little bit of earthiness in the back of the palate there. As you come further forward along the side of the tongue, you can feel it sort of smoothing out, and it does give the impression of a little bit of grassiness at the front of the, around the front kind of curve of the palate too. And behind that, this is where you get some of the sort of fruity esters out of the beer, but you can really feel the sort of sharp, more citricy side of the sour beer coming out there. But yeah, some lovely kind of white grapey, green grapey qualities there, as I say, around the edge of the palate. I don't know if I don't think they would have added fruit into this beer right enough, but if it's been barrel aged, that's where a lot of these white green grapey notes are going to come out. But you can get that really around the edge of the tongue, and you've got these lovely juicy notes to the beer. It really is around the very front edge of the palate. It's like white green grapey notes, and you've got a little bit of an almost gooseberry type flavour in there as well. If you just go behind that, you start to get the more tart kind of lemony citric sort of thing coming out of this beer, and that's nice. I mean, this beer, I find this one a little bit more puckering than some of the ones I've come across in recent times. It's not quite as smooth, but I think that's one of the things that Beerbliotek will develop over time, as they'll start getting their sour beers just a little bit more smooth. You notice this with sour beer breweries as they sort of develop. It's the longer they go at these, the smoother they get the transitions in the beer, because when you take the sour beer in, it's always very, very sharp, but then it's the way it smooths out into the more woody and oaky flavours, and some of the fruitiness as well, that really defines a good sour beer for me. But I think this is a solid start from Beerbliotek, so thumbs up. I mean, if I compare this to the other beers that I've had from this brewery, and and rate it in terms of quality, I mean, there are other beers that I've had from Beerbliotek that have struck me a lot more, but I think they're on to a solid start with these sour beers. I'm really curious to see what they throw up over the next few months, so keep an eye on this. I'll need to see what they offer through the local and Småskaligt assortment. But yeah, I like this one. The further you go into the aftertaste, you get a little bit more of the kind of Werther's Original diacetyl type thing out of the beer. The woodiness that sits there, and some more of the vanilla starts to push its way out as well. So it does gradually get sweeter and smoother the further you go into the aftertaste, and I find that the fruitiness becomes just that little bit more oily on the edge of the palate as well. But I like this one. I mean, if you get the chance to try this, have a go at it. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again if I was in the mood for a sour beer. For me, a sour beer is more like an imperial stout, right enough. It's something that I'll have every so often as a bit of a treat. I don't tend to drink sours all that often, to be honest with you. I very rarely drink beer outside of the beer videos these days, right enough. But you know, with it being Beerbliotek's first sour beers, I thought it was worth reviewing one of these. But they've done a good job of this, so thumbs up to them for this particular beer. In terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say that this is a fairly mid-bodied beer. Yeah, carbonation is pretty smooth on this one. The mouthfeel overall, I find this to be quite an oily sour beer, to be honest with you, and there's nothing wrong with that actually in terms of this one. It helps bring out some of the grapey and more gooseberry-like flavours out of the beer, which is really nice going into the aftertaste. So yeah, I like how this one kind of goes together. Quite an oily sour in my mind. In terms of bitterness and things like that, I don't know if you can count sourness as bitterness, right enough. But I think this beer, I think you'd be lucky to get 20 sort of bitterness units out of this one. I find this very smooth, very oily, almost leaning towards the sweet side of things and a little bit juicy. But I really like how this, how all of this goes together actually. So yeah, it's nice. Oily fruit, like I said, smoothness and slight sweetness in the middle of the palate. You can feel this one getting sweeter and sweeter the further you go into the aftertaste, but overall it's just a really nice solid first step when it comes to sour beers. So thumbs up to Beerbliotek for this one. I will keep an eye on what's coming out of the Suka Bruket brewery that they have, the sour beer brewery, so I recommend that you guys do as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really nice first take on a sour beer from Beerbliotek, and I look forward to seeing what they have to offer some point in the future. If you like kind of gooseberry flavours and green grapes and things like that, for me, then this is one that you're going to really enjoy. If you like the Nelson Sauvignon hop and you like the Enigma hop, or Hallertau Blanc as well, that's the other one. If you like these kind of grapey flavours, this is one that you are really going to enjoy. But let's leave it at that. This one was number 251, Brother Barrel, a 5.6% wine barrel aged mixed culture sour beer from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden. A nice first take on the sour beers, and I look forward to seeing more from this brewery over the next little while. Until the next time, slange just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Make sure you check out Beerbliotek if you're interested in Swedish beer, and have a go at some of their sour stuff if you get the chance. Slange, skål, cheers.